So,
But nobody was on that.
All right, we're all set.
all right, so it is September 24th. It is past 7 p.m. My name is Paul Tagliaferri. I'm the chair of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals. This open meeting of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals are allowed to participate either in person or remotely. The Act allows Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals to meet in person and remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream or the recording of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation. Unless such participation is required by law, this meeting will feature public comments. So just making a note that the board had or is just coming out of executive session, which we were in starting at around 6:30 p.m. And first on the agenda is a consideration of the petition for E. Zhang for a dimensional variance for insufficient area and frontage for conversion of a limited mixed-use building to two-family use on the property located at 67 Main Street, map 63, parcel 93 in the Main Street Residential District, Zoning District, and Groundwater Overlay District, Area 3. All right. Ms. Zhang, floor is yours. Yep.
Yeah, so this is my realtor friend helping me to, because my unit is not really enough, so I'm just hopefully you're not totally understanding.
That's fine.
Yep.
I can know the house pretty well. For attached.
Yeah.
So basically she's looking for a variance, make it a two-family, make it a mixed use, because currently I think it's only commercial upstairs. And it's just very difficult for her to find any kind of commercial tenant in such a small space above. And she's planning on improving the parking as well, getting rid of the garage, bringing the land level and doing 5 spots right into the parking lot.
Okay, and so what's in front of us today is a variance, a request for a variance with regards to the size of the lot. So in order for a multifamily to exist in the Main Street residential zone, you need 25,000 square feet. I believe the current square footage of the is 6,450, right? So that is looking for approximately 18,550 square feet of relief for the minimum lot size. So this application, if it's approved, will go to the planning board for a site plan review. So more detailed engineering and schematics would be required at that meeting. Yep. So this meeting or this application for what's in front of us today is really just on the variance for the lot size. So if you can kind of just give us I guess my first question is, in your application, the size of the building is not being extended in any way.
That will be exactly the way it is.
Okay, and then in terms of, do you know what the impervious surface calculation will be for how much impervious surface is there currently versus what will be the sort of ending impervious surface from once the driveway is put in?
We want to know, right now we have the front of the garage, and this is the driveway. How much driveway we want to have? I can show you the picture.
Okay.
So the drive,
You have that?
garage, how long? I don't know, a garage, how deep, I don't know, and the top of the garage, and there will be, 36 long, 36 long, and the glass long, and the wide is 30, 36.
It's 30 feet wide and 36 feet long. And then there's this turnaround area that's 12 by 18.
And then I guess the next is this property on town sewer? Yes, okay. How many bedrooms are, Well-
There's three
first,
bedroom and
yeah,
two bedroom.
yeah, 1之所以
each are gonna be 3 bedrooms? Okay. Um,
we take out the garage there. Take out the
The garage
garage.
is running into it.
Yeah, I bought almost 3 years, I cannot rent out, I cannot sold. So last year we put on the marketing almost 5 months. And all they complained they don't have enough parking space, only 2 garage. 2-car garage, and also garage, the each car is very narrow. And so actually already hit my my CRV, and then broken my mirror. Very narrow, and so.
okay, and so the 5 parking spaces, you actually need 4, but you're putting in 2 spaces per unit with 2 or more bedrooms plus 10% additional. So 5 is actually the minimum amount needed. Does anyone on the board have any questions at this particular time for the applicant?
So you're not including a porch on the back side of the building?
We're not adding anything.
And so the entrance points for the building again is the one on the side for the bottom floor, and then where's the one for the top?
The second address.
Yeah, second year,
Is whether you turn the door on.
door on the back side.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't change any structure.
We're just adding the doorway, the second address.
Yes.
How big is the retaining wall, right? Because you know, the property sort of from, if you're looking at it from sort of east to west. So there's like a grading issue there, and the parking is gonna be on a different level, right? From where the actual house elevation
We
is.
will build the 8 feet tall and the partial, I think 1 feet underground, so 7 feet above ground. And 36
I'm
long.
gonna remove an 11 door in front of the garage area.
Okay, where the garage is currently, right? There's
On that.
going all the way back, and there will be
A
a
wall.
an 8-foot high wall that sort of runs along.
Right, and currently we have a wall and close building 12 feet. And we move to 6 feet, build a new wall and 8 feet high, 36 feet long.
So do you know how many? Like how many feet? I guess when you're looking at, say, parking spot number 5, do you know how many feet it is from like the edge of parking space number 5 until the edge of the property? It looks like it's just a couple feet. Is that accurate?
Just a wall, right, just a wall,
Yeah, you think about this parking space.
right,
How far is the lot line?
Yeah.
But it's depending on, we can get closer.
yeah. So, this one, then,
Turn around.
right. Yeah.
Um. Hey, Lord, do you have any comments in terms of from the town staff's perspectives?
Well, I sent you an email with a whole long list of information that needs to be submitted with your site plan application to the planning board. Did you receive that?
It's a few days ago.
Oh, Yes, a few
Yeah,
days ago, a
I-
long list.
Right, I will send it to my, engineer.
Yes.
And then-
Yes, because there was not enough information on these plans for me to understand how this parking lot is going to be constructed. So we need quite a bit more information so that we can understand that. And there is also a requirement because you're in the groundwater protection overlay district. So there's a requirement to deal with the runoff
Mhm.
from this parking lot or from the roof. One or the other to decrease the amount of water running into the street.
Yeah, you see it last time you talked to me there. right?
Yes,
And also before we talk, and you tell me and for plan meeting, right?
yes,
And for that's a change, and I already talked to engineer to basically on the you road and also, and probably he will contact you. He will come in here,
okay,
right.
very good, yes.
Does anyone have?
Why are we looking at just the square foot of the property? For a variance?
So it's a pre-existing non-conforming.
Structure.
Because it was, the property itself was created in 1900 as well as the building.
Correct.
So the only thing that is changing, that is the reason why a variance is needed, is the square footage for a two-family structure. So for any other use in this district, the minimum lot size requirement is 15,000 square feet. However, for a two-family structure, the minimum lot size is 25,000 square feet. That's the only dimensional requirement that changes from the prior zoning to the new use. So that's the variance that they need. Because the building itself is not changing.
I guess is your question more of like, why is the zoning board of appeals not doing site plan review?
Well, I'm concerned, as you were, about the impervious surface and the runoff. That was my first thing.
Oh,
And
I understand.
which goes to, the topography of the site, not the building. The building is pre-existing non-conforming. You're not changing it. We're not looking at the setbacks. We're not looking at the frontage. We're not looking at, which none of those meet the current bylaw either.
So the planning board is the permitting authority for the special permit use of a two-family as well as site plan approval. So the ZBA is only looking at the variance. And then the permitting authority for the rest is the planning board. So they're gonna be looking at
So
all of
change of
those
use,
issues.
almost. It's a change of use, but the structures remain the same. So they're still looking at the property as is. That's why, I guess that's where I'm getting hung up on this. Is the structure hasn't changed. They are changing the topography.
It's because they don't
That-
have 25,000
But we're giving
square
them relief
feet.
of that.
That would enable them to go to the planning board for
Because we're
site
changing
plan
the use.
approval.
So they need a variance. They need a use variance.
So the planning board cannot approve a project with a zoning violation. So the planning board cannot issue special permit for a two-family because she doesn't have 25,000 square feet.
She doesn't have to meet the setbacks either.
Are you saying because the second floor is a commercial space? That's a different distinct use?
You're changing the use.
So
So
the
right-
setback for the current use is the same as the setback for the new use, so there's no
So
change in
so
the
I'm saying, we're
non-conformity.
looking at we're questioning, I'm just trying to get my hands on this.
Yeah.
I'm new to this whole thing. We're looking at the dimensional of the lot. Which isn't changing. But the
Correct.
setbacks aren't changing. And the
Yep.
frontage aren't changing, why aren't we
Well,
looking at those also?
So
Because the structure's pre-existing non-conforming.
so the minimum lot size for the current use, and all other uses in this particular district is 15,000 square feet. But she wants to go from a limited mixed-use structure to a two-family structure. So that is the only use that has an increase in the minimum lot size. So if
Okay.
she were
So that
going from,
changes from,
exactly,
on that-
so if she were going from a limited mixed-use building to a commercial building, no issue. She doesn't have to come here
Gotcha.
for a variance. It's only because she wants to go to a two-family, which has a larger lot size requirement.
thank you,
That's the only reason why she's here.
thank you.
And the frontage on both of those is 100 square feet, so it's already existing. The building is not changing,
That's just-
but yes,
Still getting used to the.
Yeah.
Zoning bylaw, so.
Yeah,
yeah, and to your point, Jack, I mean, you know, my concerns are obviously with the sort of some of the missing data in terms of impervious surface calculations, sort of figuring out how that you know, the 9-foot retaining wall that's going to be there, a lot of the site, the groundwater, right? What's going to happen with runoff? It seems like the driveway is very close to the lot lines, like
Yeah.
in terms of the building process, like, but that's all.
That's going, they're going from here to planning.
Yeah.
correct,
And planning is gonna look at all that anyway.
Correct.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can ask questions, figure it out, give it a shot, but I think it would definitely would behoove the applicant to come up with all those answers that Lori had
Right,
provided
they will come up with that.
to the planning board, because,
They don't want-
yeah, all right. Okay, is that,
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm good.
okay,
Thank you.
does anyone else have any other questions with regards? Brad, do you
Yeah.
have you been able to hear everything so far?
Yes. Yep. Everything sounds good. Yeah. My only question, or my concern is that fifth parking spot. Parking spot 4 and a parking spot 5 seems a little tight, and we don't want people backing onto Route 20. But I don't know how parking spot 4 maybe going to be able to get out of that spot and be able to turn around and not back out onto Route 20.
Yeah, there is a problem there. He brings up a very good point, and I noticed this as well. If you have a car parked in parking space number 5, then a car parked in parking space number 4 isn't going to be able to back up. They're not gonna be able to turn around in parking space number 5. So that's gonna be a problem. And then if somebody's in parking space number 5 and there's somebody in all the other parking spaces, then they're gonna have to back all the way up onto the Route 20, which is very dangerous. So
It's not too much time and 5 cars same time parking there, right?
I think you're gonna have to find another configuration for that extra parking space so that you're still gonna be able to back up and turn around when you're leaving those, when all of the spaces are full. But that's a conversation we can have with the engineer.
So 就是say like if second floor and make to 2 bedroom, not 3 bedroom, they still need to request the 5 parking.
I believe if you have
It's two parking
one
spaces.
bedroom,
Oh, yeah, one bedroom.
then you can do 1.5 parking spaces. So then you would only need 4.
Cannot 1 bedroom.
So I think 2 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces,
Yeah.
10%, because of the visitor space.
Oh, so go to backyard.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find another location for a parking space. this is great for turnaround, but it's just too tight.
For too tight for number 5 parking.
There's a parking car, there's a car here. This car can't back into it and pull out. They don't want them backing out in 20.
Yeah,
So they want to have a different spot for number 5. Maybe for here or something. I don't know.
就看
The engineer can come up with maybe a different.
是就是 two garage can we use the one side 就是 two garage take out right so still have this space so if visitor coming just parking this way parking one side and another people and use for 4 and so this is the garage take the right so one left and for visitor and if you have a visitor temporary left.
I think you're probably gonna have to create a parking space here with a little area to turn around. So that this will be free for turning around for this parking spaces.
How can
It's the
turn?
backup. She needs backup.
You need the backup.
Okay.
But even still, like the difference in like the topography of like where that porch is and like where the parking space is like almost 6 feet. So
Yeah.
there's like a drop off there, but I
She,
mean, it's definitely, I mean, it's very, very tight property, obviously.
yes,
You know, and I think from variance perspective, you know, given that it's downtown and downtown is kind of where more dense property is, you know, I do think that the site plan does need to get reconfigured and re-engineered, and there's a lot of open questions. So, I mean, I guess, you know, would happy to hear the board's input on, you know, obviously there's only so much like we can, you know, because the site plan is going in front of the planning board and they're the ones that are really responsible for answering all that questions, you know, we can obviously put, you know, if we approve this application, can put conditions on, it needs to get site plan approved by planning board and they'll go through all the necessary steps. So I'm happy to hear what, or if you want to wait for that information, we can do that as well. So, Susan.
I feel like with the bedroom plan, we're kind of tied to the parking spots. And being that I don't really understand the topography of the driveway with the pictures and then, I mean, I wish we could take a field trip over right now just to see because I can't understand the pictures and I was here today and I should have popped over and I was thinking about it when you were like, it's right next door earlier and I was like, should I? And then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna pop over. I was like on a time crunch, but so it is hard because even if we took away one bedroom, you would still need the 5 spots, correct? And then, so it doesn't even matter if you took away the 1 bedroom. So I feel like approving this. But with the topography, you need that approval. Or you need the design by an expert for the driveway. So I don't know how I would be able to vote on this without this, yeah. Or I don't know,
Well-
is it a chicken without what comes first, the chicken or the egg in my head right now? I need more discussion, I guess, or to hear from.
Yeah, I mean, I think from like what I would say is from a high level, right?
Mhm.
The ask is, I have a lot that for a housing unit, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms, requires a variance because the minimum lot size is going from 15 to 25,000 square feet and I only have 6,500, right? So that's the ask, and that's
Yeah.
that's the question in front of us. And then the answer is, or what's in front of us is the information provided by the applicant enough for us to be comfortable in making a decision, right?
Right,
Knowing that the details of a site plan review by the planning board with a reconfigured parking lot and all that other stuff is still in the balance of what our decision is. So that's it's a question. If board members feel that they don't have enough information today to make an accurate and appropriate decision, then,
Mhm.
we can leave it open and come back next month with something more refined and detailed. But those refinements and details will ultimately have to come because they will ultimately have to go to the planning board to get any sort of approval. Meaning, like, if we approve this today, they still can't do anything.
Right.
It's a shorter way to say it. Jacob.
Something that would help my thinking about the question we have, and I don't even know, I'm not asking the applicant to provide this information. Maybe someone on the board knows, or maybe Lori knows. I would be curious to know, what is the town's purpose in having the 25,000 square foot requirement for multifamily versus the 15,000 square foot requirement for the limited mixed use? Because I feel like if I understood better why someone, we, the town collectively, one day in our grand wisdom, thought this kind of thing needs 10,000 more square feet, that would help me to be able to even formulate the right questions to know if we're doing the right thing by the town. And I feel like I'm a little empty on that.
Well, I can tell you that that change was recently approved. So that's
To increase or decrease?
to increase the minimum lot size of duplexes. I think, let's see. That was done in 2021.
Fairly recently then.
Yeah.
And do you know what it was before?
Well, of course, this is before my time, so I'm just, I worked with the design review committee on the duplex design standards, which were just passed by the planning board, I think maybe 2 years ago. And when we were talking about those, they said that there was a lot of concern a few years ago because duplexes were getting so large. And they seem to be out of scale with the character of single family neighborhoods that they were going in. So I believe, based on that discussion, that the idea was because the duplexes were getting so large, then the land area to support those duplexes needed to be larger. So, of course, this is a two family that was built in 1900. So it's not large, it's
It's a conversion, which I think is like sort of what the goal of sort of downtown master plan, the preference is converting larger houses into multifamily, if that's the process, rather than tearing something down and building a whole new thing, which I think is a good thing in this case, right? I think what needs probably a little bit more sharper pencil is how do these 5 parking spaces fit, right? What is the groundwater implications? How does, this 9-foot wall, like, what does that actually look and feel like? Better sort of elevation views would be good. But like I said, I mean, my personal opinion is that, in terms of like needing the size, I can see myself getting there, but I would also say that there's a lot of information that's not in this application currently. That typically, again, gets pointed to the site plan, but however you guys want to proceed is fine with me. Meaning we can either make a decision today or
Continue.
continue. Yep.
Yeah, well, I appreciate, so given what information our planner gave us, that does help me a little bit with the question I was having, in the sense that it seems, at least in my mind at this moment, that the reason for the 25,000 instead of the 15,000, which in some technical way is what triggered our needing to be involved. Otherwise, it would have been the same as the previous non-conforming use and therefore not needing, just like the frontage being 100 versus 100, we don't need to say anything about the frontage because the requirement didn't change for the different use. But if the reason that the town has for the difference in square footage relates to a problem that isn't really present in this lot and property anyway, then I'm a little more comfortable with it. That being said, I'm a little bit on the fence on the question of, do I need a little more time to mull it over and make sure we're thinking about the right things in terms of what the ZBA needs to do, you know, so I'm half and half, whether to continue just to give us a little more time to digest or make a decision today.
Yeah. And I think, what I would say to that is, I agree with that. I mean, if more information leads you to getting to a yes, you're gonna have, the applicant's gonna have to present that work to us or to someone else, right? So, yeah. Sorry, Brad, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I personally would like to see some more information before making a decision. If everyone else in the room just wants to make the decision tonight, I'm not going to hold it up. But I think because this is a tight lot and they're asking for a lot of relief, I would like to see more details around the parking, the impervious coverage, and things like that. And if they do have to get it together for the planning board, I'd like to see it beforehand because that's the first gateway through the process.
Okay, thanks, Brad. John?
Lori, question, we would have to though opine on the groundwater overlay, right? So.
No,
Is that planning
because
board?
there was a change at town meeting this past spring that said that if you're in the groundwater protection overlay district, then there is no longer a special permit requirement. So now staff is going to ensure compliance with that.
Okay.
So that's information that will have to be submitted with your additional filing to the planning board. But the building inspector is gonna ensure compliance. It's not a separate special permit. But I'm sure, like, I'm going to be interested in seeing this compliance. So that's what I was talking about when I said that you have to, you can't let that stormwater run down into Route 20. You have to deal with it on your site. You have to infiltrate it into the ground. That's because of the groundwater protection overlay
This
district.
part of job, who should do it?
The engineer has to design a solution. So whether, you know, he's gonna infiltrate the roof runoff or whether he's gonna infiltrate the driveway runoff, but he has to do something.
And he would know this.
Yeah, Jay.
I find it's a tough spot for a commercial enterprise. I think it's better as a residential.
Yeah.
So to give them relief of the footage required, we're just sending them to the planning board. The planning board is gonna look at everything that we're asking for.
Yeah.
It's out of our purview for the most part. So as far as I'm concerned, if we grant them the relief and they don't get their permit, nothing changes.
Yep.
So I have no problem with if this was to pass this board.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, my biggest issues with this is the stuff that's missing and then the stuff that the planning board will cover. You know, in terms of, the open issues, I agree. Like, I mean, in terms of, going from a commercial to a residential, dense housing belongs downtown. It's a conversion, which is the preferred method for increasing the density of a property. It is an extremely tiny lot, so there is a lot of things on the engineering side that needs to be sort of addressed, and I hope that that's the feedback that the applicant takes. But if it was up to me, I'm comfortable with making a decision tonight, but we can leave it up to the rest of the board. I don't know. John or Jacob or
Did you want to do it, is this a conversation I'll have with the applicant in the room?
Well, so if you guys are, I guess sorry, I guess the question is that are you guys comfortable making a decision tonight if we close the case? Right, because our decision right now at the present is we can close the public hearing and then we can deliberate.
Yeah.
Right, or we can continue the public hearing, right, and the applicant can go back and sort of get some of the information that we've sort of discussed here, whether or not it's directly related to the variance at hand. Is a different question. But then they would come back, give the information, then we can close the case and proceed from there. So.
Yeah, with the matter at hand that we have to opine on, I'm fine with making a decision tonight.
Okay.
And this is a public meeting, so
Oh,
the
yeah.
applicant has the right to stay in the room.
So I guess the only other thing is this is a public meeting. And
If there's any online participants.
I do not see anyone for public comment. Brad, do you see anyone else?
No, there have not been any attendees during this hearing.
Yeah. I thought we were more popular. Okay, so I guess Brad, what are your thoughts on closing the case and making a decision tonight?
Yeah, if that's a consensus in the room, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Jacob and Susie.
I wanted to hear Susie's thought.
As I said, it was like the chicken and the egg.
Hmm.
So if if the parking lot has to go to the planning board anyway, and Lori, you were okay with the drawing too and the scale, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I
I did want to
used
ask if
that drawing
Yeah.
with the other drawing, and I used them side by side to understand what was going on.
Yeah,
But I thought in the other drawing that was made by the professional,
Yeah.
that it was scaled.
okay,
So I had an easier time understanding the size of the unit.
okay.
Okay.
And Bob was okay, there was no questions from Bob either, I know we didn't.
Bob did
get
not
it.
submit any comments.
Okay. Then I'm okay with making a vote tonight. I agree with, I mean, she looked forever for a minute for this, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm being a person on the fence with 4 people who aren't on the fence, so I'm happy to go on to a vote. My question, I guess, that I'm still struggling with is I'm trying to ask myself, what is the standard out of our bylaws or the MGLs that I'm applying to the question of should we grant this variance? And I'm coming up a little bit empty about that. Conceptually, I'm comfortable with the idea that ultimately the town should get protection through the process with the planning board. And that gives me comfort. And I agree with the comments that were made about, particularly this proposal being consistent with, I think, master plan in general. With respect to downtown, I think that's true, but I don't know if that's one of my relevant questions in designing this particular variance. And so, to me, I see that for some reason, we had a 15,000 square foot requirement. It's based on the change in use, it's going to a 25 square foot requirement. And, you know, whether you look at it as a variance of 18,550 square feet, or simply just the difference of the current non-conforming use and the new non-conforming use of 10,000 square feet, I'm struggling to find what's the standard on which I'm making a decision. And that's my comment, but I'm happy to do my best.
I believe, so what she's claiming is a hardship. Owing to the small, oddly shaped and steeply sloped nature of the lot. So it's the size of the lot, the soil conditions and the topography.
Okay. I won't stop us from going to a decision.
Okay. So I'll give the applicant a last chance to comment, or if you have anything else to add to sort of our discussion here.
Anything to add? Well, basically, the planning board is gonna have to decide anyway. They grant you the variance, you still gotta get everything to the planning board. But they can make a decision now, see what they're gonna pass you to the planning board.
Yeah, so finally, and planning
the
board,
engineer will have to do the whole
we
project.
change all the
Okay.
change and so planning board to.
Right, your engineer will have to do a lot of work to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
to the
yeah,
planning board.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is, you know, there's a lot of work to be done before your next.
Right.
You know, if this does pass today, there's a good amount of work, and I would heed your, whatever Lori's advice is on getting all the engineering schematics, and all the relevant documentations with regards to groundwater infiltration systems, because these are all things that if we had site plan review, we would be asking for before being able to make a decision, so.
That's so long word.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have any other comments? Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
For the consideration of the petition of the Zion's, variance that's.
Closing the comment period or the hearing?
Public hearing.
They close the comments. You're still gonna deliberate.
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so close the
So you're
public,
closing the meeting to public comments.
Yep. yeah, so no more new information from that point, then we go into a deliberation phase and then vote. Yeah, that's why I was like, if we were gonna keep it open, we wouldn't close it, we would just continue. So I believe John made a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Brad seconded. We'll just do a unanimous vote. All those in favor, Brad raised his hand as well.
Yep.
So the public meeting is closed.
Great.
All right, cool, thank you. We'll have a decision shortly. All right.
Are we deliberating?
They
Yeah.
can still.
And you can stay.
Yeah, you can
Stay.
say, yeah, you can say if you want, but we just can't really, like, we don't talk to them, right? Say. Some people stay, some people don't, but, no, that's fine. You can watch it on YouTube anyway. Yeah, I mean, I guess just, I've already said this before, but, you know, I think that, given what was in front of us today, given the lack of size in the property, the ability to sort of add to the property, you know, it's a conversion, which in my opinion, it is a much more preferred sort of transition to a multifamily, more densely configured use. It is an appropriate use. It's in the Main Street residential. It's on Route 20. I think the parking configuration is poor. It needs to be redone, but I think given what is being asked of us today.
Hey, Paul, sorry to cut you off. I lost audio in there. I can barely hear you.
Oh, sorry, Brad, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
No, okay.
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off.
That was a great speech. You should have heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess given all of that, I think it's appropriate to approve it, obviously with the condition that they still need to go in front of the planning board, go in front of site plan review and answer all the sort of questions that we had waiting. So, anyone else have any other comments? Yeah, Susan?
I agree. She looked for a while for a new tenant, a professional tenant and couldn't find one, so the natural next step was to convert it, so. And she wasn't making any changes to the building either, so, I am in favor of this.
Okay.
And we don't have any say over the driveway, so sending that to the planning board.
Correct. John?
Yeah, I mean, going through it from the variance perspective, trying to explain the hardship, the shape of topography, obviously, I think is there. Just the overall, the hardship, the reasonable use of the property, I think that's showing a hard, showing the detriment. And then obviously, I wouldn't consider any detriment to the public good in this case either, so.
Yeah. Now, I guess what I'll reiterate too, that the building is not getting any bigger, so it's not like it's changing in any way that would cause a change in, you know, the density of the lot, but Jacob, do you have any? Or Brad, but
Let's go Brad first, if he.
Brad, do you have any,
No additional comments. I think, but I mean, I think it's a good use of the space. This is where multifamily high dense housing belongs, is in downtown. Just, you know, like you said, just the list of conditions that Lori listed out need to be addressed. But for us, what we're deciding on is just the lot size itself. So I definitely agree that she made a case for a hardship. But I'm in favor of this project.
okay, thanks, Brad.
I won't repeat any of the comments that were made. I don't disagree with any of the comments that were made. The one thing that I would add is, I don't think that the change in use is any worse for the town in the sense of although there is a different square footage requirement for the new use, I don't think that the reasons for it are very applicable to this unique site, and therefore aren't, in my mind, a reason to say that the change is worse for the town. And because of that, I think that it's not any worse for the town and may be better for the town. I don't know if I'm wise enough to say that it's better for the town, but it's not worse for the town, I'm prepared to say. And willing to support it for that.
Jack, you have any?
No.
Okay. So, I guess condition obviously is based on, select board approval, right? Planning board. Sorry, is there a motion to approve, unless anyone has any other comments, but. All right, I think there's sorry. Can I just read this motion? Yep. So the motion to grant the variance of 18,550 square feet from the 25,000 square foot minimum lot size required by zoning bylaw section 7-06030J, section 5, density and dimensional regulations, supplemental regulations, Main Street Residential District, to allow the lot area of the subject site 6,450 square feet for the development of a two-family dwelling on a property located at 67 Main Street, map 63, parcel 93, subject to findings of facts 1 to 13 in condition A. Yes.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Do I need a so move?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
moved. It can't be him.
So moved. And then
Brad second.
Brad seconded?
Yep.
So Susie so moved the motion and Brad seconded the motion. All those in favor? Aye, Brad?
Aye. Yep, aye.
Yep, noting that you are an aye as well. So it's a unanimous decision. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry. All right. So next up on the agenda is the consideration of minutes. Sorry.
It was already ended.
Yeah.
Before you guys made the motion to
We
approve.
always end it.
Yeah.
But the hearing is just for when we're here, when we're discussing one hearing, we're just discussing.
Right. Yeah, so I think the process we've always done is you open the public meeting or public hearing. Then you can continue it or you can close the public hearing.
Close the public comment.
Comment, yeah, public hearing, public comment.
The hearing is the whole hearing, including
Well-
the motion.
We're in the meeting. But that's the public hearing.
It's not gonna happen.
The public hearing.
Lawyer
is
semantic is like.
The period where comments are accepted. And then they close the public hearing, no more comment. So you're still in the meeting. So you're still in the public meeting, but you're no longer in the public hearing. That's the distinction.
Yeah, so I mean, I think like what we've,
The other thing I think we should explain to people what happens afterwards. You know, technically, you have 14 days to render a decision. And they still have to wait 21 days to get the signing, to get the decision from the clerk to register at the Worcester County Registry of Deeds. So I think they don't know what's going on when they leave here. I think we should make that part of information to them.
That's a good idea. I know that the decision letter has that information, but they don't necessarily know that that information is forthcoming in the decision letter either.
She got an email and she didn't look at it. It was irrelevant.
Sorry,
Sorry, I digress.
no, it's all right. But I guess what I was gonna say is typically it's. You open the public comment, close public comment, and then once you close the public comment, you can deliberate for however long, right? But there's no new information that can enter
Correct.
from that point on. So that's why it's either you can, if people are unsure, it's better to just leave it open, the public comment period open. And then you go.
A few years ago, it seems like, if I recall, there was one that. Whether it was continued or not, I remember watching that.
Yeah, but then like, once you close the public comment, then it's, in order to reopen, then it needs to be like
Notice it.
renotice and that whole thing. But then it's also, are you expecting more information or new information? But then once a decision is rendered, right, then you have 14 days to actually file it, right? Is it 14 days to file it?
Yeah. So.
Right, which is why I've asked and Lori has provided sort of the draft decisions so that at least we have something to look at if we are going to make a decision. It was my request as a chair to have something on paper before we actually make a decision. It by no means is a way to skew a vote one way or the other. And I just want to make it clear that if anyone has any sort of reservations about making a decision, I'm fine with punting it to another meeting. So, but next up on the agenda is the consideration of minutes from the August 27th, 2024 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to view or read the minutes and provide any comments to Lori? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting.
Mr. Chair, when that we, what do we do with minutes? We
Approve the minutes.
approve, there we go. The approved meeting minutes from our August 27, 2024 meeting.
Okay.
As explained.
Yep.
I'll second.
All right, so Jacob made a motion to approve the minutes and Susie seconded. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Brad, no,
Aye.
he's raising his hand as well. So next up on the agenda is really just our next two meetings, October 22nd and November 26th.
We don't have any applications for October.
We do not, although, so you folks may recall that I had mentioned the Economic Development Forum. So that would be with the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we did receive a scope from Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. So they provided I think a very good scope of work. It included reaching out to the various board and committee members in advance with a survey and then possibly doing some follow-up interviews. So I'd be happy to email that to you folks tomorrow. I did share it with the MPIC, the Master Plan Implementation Committee, first at their meeting on Thursday night. Because it was their idea to have this economic development forum to begin with. And they liked the scope of work. So right now, the next step in the process is to reach out to our CMRPC delegate, which is Carrie Martnick, and see if she approves the scope of work, and she will authorize the use of, they're called LPA hours. So as part of our membership in the Central Regional Planning Commission, we're allowed a certain amount of technical assistance per year. It's included within the price of our membership. So we would use 24 hours of that, as well as supplemental hours that they have available through their regional economic development policy planning process. So there would be no cost to the town. So excited about it. We have to figure out a date that'll work for all three boards, which may be a bit of a challenge. So I have reached out to them. Some of the dates that we were kicking around were one of the planning board meeting dates in November. And I think it was the third meeting, third Tuesday in November. And then we were also thinking about maybe the third Thursday in November. So I gave those to CMRPC. They're getting back to me. If those dates don't work, we'll pick other dates. But anyway, the long and short of it is I'm going to send you guys an email with potential dates. So if you could get back to me whether those dates work for you, that would be fabulous.
And so the meeting will be planning, select board?
It'll be planning, select board, and ZBA.
Okay. All members?
So it'll be all members, hopefully.
Yep.
And there will be some members of the MPIC to kind of facilitate the conversation a little bit, but
Sure.
for the most part, it'll be facilitated by CMRPC.
Okay. Cool,
All right,
thank you.
that's it.
Thanks, Lori.
Anyone else have any other? Nothing? Susie?
Well, we're having a jack-o'-lantern stroll. And it's gonna be in the town common on October 25th, Community Affairs Committee. So details coming, but I'll share it with you. But
All right,
that's
great.
pretty much it.
Thank you. No one has anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn,
It's like,
All right,
8:11.
Susie made a motion and John seconded. All those in favor? Aye, Brad?
Aye. Aye.
Make sure you wear sunscreen, all right?
Yes, right.
See you, Brad.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, Brad.
Thanks.